So I just finished the It's Totally Possible call on the Absolutely Everything pass, and it was amazing. I didn't come into it with any expectations or any ideas of what to say, and even each 10-minute session, it was a total an hour and a half, but it felt like an entire seminar. Each 10-minute session, I came into it not having anything to say, feeling fairly blank, not having any words, and at the beginning, feeling that blank slate. But wow, what came up was amazing. So it really started with exploring and being comfortable with pain. So I was talking about how I'd been dealing with chronic pain, and that's what I was primarily thinking about in the past year. Really intense chronic pain in my neck and my back, which I'm seeing improvement. I've been going to the chiropractor steadily and also spent hours and hours and hours on the floor on a stretching mat trying to work it out. And what I learned is that if you go into the pain and you be really present with it, the boundaries of it tend to dissolve. And the closer you go to it, the more you see the perception of pain, the suffering of it, aspect of it. It has to do with a judgment of it, not wanting it to be there. And so really going into it, having that level of focus where you can get really close into the pain, the perception of pain, it shifts, and you perceive it as sensation, but it doesn't have that intensity that it did before, which is really cool because you can start to use that with not just physical pain, but emotional pain and also your thoughts. The closer you get to them, the more amorphous and less solid and a fact of reality they seem. If you observe them from a distance, they seem pretty legit, and it seems like that's the way it is, and it can't really shift. But the closer you get to it, the more that your perception of it changes. You can see it as temporal, insubstantial, and something that is expressing itself fully in that way, in that moment, but that can shift and change at any time. With being fully present, you let go of stories about how long this pain is lasting and anxiety about how it's going to last. You can have that sense of time dissolve. And there were two aspects that really grew from this. The first aspect is seeing the pain, not just physical, but the emotional pain that I've experienced, really as turning points, opportunities where you turn around the corner and you can shift direction. Acknowledging everything as perfect as it is, not feeling the need to fix the situation, needing to fix people because you need to fix people because you have their judgment of them. But sitting back, releasing, let the situation be exactly as it is, being in perfect harmony with reality. Releasing that urge to change and fix the situation and people. 100% fix and work on everything that you can change. But what I'm really talking about is that urge to try and fix situations and people that you really don't have control over, and it creates so much stress within yourself. Underneath that, there is an attachment to it being a different way. This shouldn't be this way. So one of the exercises we do is say, it's totally perfect that this is this way. It's totally perfect that I don't need to fix anyone. I can release and let them be as they are. I don't need to be the fixer. The second aspect is really getting comfortable with pain because you're releasing the judgment about it and you're being present with it. What I started to do is really be present with silence, with the present moment, without distractions. So without going straight to the phone, just being present in the now. And of course, it feels quite uncomfortable at first. And I noticed how a lot of that uncomfortableness has to do with a lot of these micro feelings or feelings that don't automatically come to the conscious awareness, but create this level of being uncomfortable, like being in silence without being distracted. And that presence with the now without being distracted brought up something really beautiful. It brought about a sense of time being very flexible, because if you're sitting in the now, you're not doing anything, you're just being present with whatever emotions are coming up, then it can feel painful, it can feel very boring. So what happens when you feel bored or you're in pain? Time slows down. And that's actually a beautiful gift, because if you can sit in the present long enough, you get bored of it, and if you move past it, you can actually feel intense peace. And intense, I mean by just peacefulness, like a blissful sense of peace. So instead of living your day rushing from one task to the next, so I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done, taking that space, that uncomfortable space, being really present in it, now there's no longer that rush to move on to the next thing. That is also kind of accompanied by like, oh, I don't want to do that, but I have to force myself to try and get all of this done. Instead, by being present with the stillness, you're ready for the next task when you need to do it. It creates a sense of rest. Let's say your whole week is quite busy, you're busy working, and you need to rest. So on the weekend, instead of going and being busy doing something else, you spend the entire day not watching any TV, not being on social media. You just be present in silence. That can be washing dishes, that can be knitting, that can be gardening. I like to do stretching, but I used to distract myself while listening to a podcast, which we think is being more time efficient, but is actually robbing you of time. Because if you spend the whole day in silence, time expands, time dilates. You're no longer worrying about running out of time. You're not worried about a set schedule. You're able to fully breathe and flow with the moment. And then that translates into not worrying about not having enough time in your life. I'm not going to be worrying about not being able to achieve enough in the weeks, months, days, years ahead. You can be fully present in the now and have that worry and anxiety about time dissolve. And that brings you into a state of presence. Now, presence can be uncomfortable, especially when you are present with the divine. And I somewhat realized today, the divine is uncomfortable. Full, pure light is uncomfortable. You being present in the room with divine presence, with divine light, is extremely uncomfortable. And what we feel, this discomfort that we feel when we're in stillness, is all of our impurities within ourselves that obstruct our experience of the divine are being purged. They're being brought to light. The shadows within you are being brought to light when you're in the presence of the divine. And when you sit in stillness, you are being in the presence of the divine. And that's why it is so uncomfortable. So are we disconnected? 100%. We're completely disconnected when we're constantly distracting. For example, using your phone. If you're going to be using drugs, using a relationship, trying to use someone else to distract yourself from feeling the presence of the divine, which is going to purge you of all impurities. We're talking insecurity, fear, anxiety, worry, sadness. All of these emotions have their place, and they are even amplified within divine presence, because within the divine, you have an amplification of anger, of sorrow, because you're fully present with what is. And reality is mystical and complex. But when you release your resistance of it, you can feel it fully. So reality has the things that you experience as pleasant and unpleasant. It has beauty and evil. It has the extremes where we can experience intense divinity, intense light, and intense darkness as well. And what we're doing is we're expanding ourselves to experience the polar extremities of those experiences. And if you have a deep resistance towards feeling what you perceive as negative, you're capping yourself out, making yourself small, so you can't experience the fullness of divinity. And it's that judgment, it's that shame that's going to keep you capped and keep you small. Releasing that judgment is going to allow you to experience that fullness there. And so I realized this is what I'm stepping into. I'm stepping into being fully present in the subtle but somewhat disconcerting and deeply uncomfortable aspects of what I'm feeling in the moment as I am connecting to the divine, and the divine is purging everything within me that doesn't align with it. And so my task to myself is to stay in the room, to be present to what's being opened up and revealed.